hear about the woman. She was out with her car. She was doing some errands, and she's a pastor of a church, and she got a call. She needed to make a hospital visit. A congregant was in the hospital, and she was just really wanted to get there quickly. She went out to get in her car, and she left her keys in the car, and didn't know what to do. And being a pastor, she had her hands on the car, and she just called upon the Lord. She said, "God, you've got to help me. You've got to help me. I've locked the keys in the car. You've got to send help." Well, in just a matter of a few minutes, some guy comes in on a beat-up old motorcycle. And he's really a rough-looking biker. He's got, this dirty old skull cap on, and he's raggedy clothes. He's got tattoos and piercings and everything. And he comes up to her and he says, "You got a problem, lady?" And she says, "God, this is what you're sending me?" And he says, "Yeah, I've locked the keys in the car, and I've really got to get to the hospital." And he said, "No problem, lady." No time at all. He tinkered with this, he was under the hood, he did this, he did that, he was in the car. It was opened up. She said, "Oh, I am so grateful." Gave him a hug. She said, "You are such a nice man." He said, "Lady, I'm not a nice man. I've been in trouble my whole life, and I just got out of jail for auto theft." The woman turned to God, she said, "Thank you, God, you didn't just help me, you sent me a professional." That's an answer to prayer. That's an answer to prayer. Sometimes it comes in an unexpected way, does it not? Sometimes it doesn't look like it necessarily. And that leads a little bit into what I wanted to talk about this morning, the sense of this unexpected kind of love that can really turn things around. It's something I think I go back to again and again, because Jesus' teachings on love were so radical, that we are still trying to wrap our minds around what he was teaching about love and its power. This is a very different kind of love than is conventional. The way he taught love was this is something very powerful, and in difficult times, in times of challenge or confusion or animosity or hostility, this is a power that will turn things around. It's a whole different way of thinking about love that's really much more profound. So I wanted to revisit that again today. This unexpected kind of love, what does it look like? How do we practice it? And how can it really flip the switch on a situation and transform situations, move us in a creative direction, personally, communally, really in every way? Let's look again at what those radical teachings were, from all those years ago. Jesus' radical teachings about this unexpected kind of love. This is from Matthew 5. You've heard it was said, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but I say, do not resist an evildoer. If anyone strikes you on the right cheek, turn the other also. If anyone wants to sue you and take your coat, give your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go also the 2nd mile. That must have sounded pretty crazy. It still sounds so someone slaps you and you go like this. Someone tries to steal your coat and you say, "Here, take this as well." Very unexpected response. He said, "Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. For if you love only those who love you, what reward do you have?" That's a very powerful statement to reflect on. If you love only those who love you, that's easy. It's really easy to love people who like you and are nice to you and always kind. Family, friends, dear ones. But people who maybe are not so nice, is it easy to love them? But what he's saying is there's a much greater reward when we manage to love beyond our boundaries. When we are able to come up with this unexpected kind of love, it can turn things around. There's a reward in it. He said, "In everything do to others as you would have them do to you." We learned that as the golden rule growing up as kids. But I think it's actually a very powerful teachings. Typically, the human reaction is to give back whatever is coming at you. And he's saying, don't do that. Do to others as you would like them to do to you. They're probably not doing it now, but you act toward them the way you would like them to respond. It's an unexpected kind of teaching about love. No matter what they're doing, you do this. You model a new thing. And do toward others as you would like them to do to you. It's a very, really radical teaching. I always enjoyed looking at Neil Douglas Klotz. He does some Aramaic studies on what those words meant to the audience that was listening to Jesus in that spoken language of Aramaic. And the words have a lot richer meaning than got boiled down in our Bible translations over the years. So this word, love your enemies. What did that word love mean to Jesus' listeners? What did he mean by it? Klotz has this definition for what this understanding of love was. A mysterious impersonal force, one that acts in secret to bring separate beings together to create new life. A mysterious impersonal force. That's the kind of love he's talking about. Extending that unexpected kind of love, even when it doesn't seem like a reasonable reaction to what's coming at you. I was interested to learn recently, I was just stumbling on some texts of some NPR programs, radio programs. There's a psychological term now I've not heard of before called non-complementary behavior. Has anyone heard that term? Sounds like psychology, doesn't it? Non-complementary behavior. This is an unexpected kind of love. It's really what they're talking about in a way. It's a psychological term for when people don't mirror back the same thing that's coming at them. They talk about how the vast majority of people, most of the time, you mirror what's coming at you. You mirror behavior back. You respond in kind. So if somebody's approaching someone else with anger, anger is coming at, is responded. If there's hostility, whatever, it could be any emotional thing. The typical human response is to react in the same manner. When you don't do that, they talk about that as non-complementary behavior. And this whole teaching or idea was that when people manage to do that, and it's hard to do, but when people manage to practice this non-complementary behavior, it can flip a switch in a whole new direction. Flip a switch in a communication, in a relationship, on a personal level, on a national level, on a communal level. There is a great power in being able to do the unexpected response, the non-complementary behavior. And I think that's very much in tune with what Jesus was teaching with this radical kind of love. Don't just mirror back what's coming at you. Do something new. Model something new. And the rewards are great. It can flip a switch. It's something we can all do. We all have that God connection. We all have this capacity to tune into this power in us and model something new. Something new, something creative, something compassionate. And we get opportunities to practice it pretty much every day. Would you agree? Pretty much every day. As I was thinking about this during the week, I was trying to remember some of my own experiences with this. Have there been times I've managed it? The non-complementary response, this unexpected kind of love in response to even unpleasantness or hostility. Have I witnessed it in others? I think we've all had experiences like this. I remember a time, some years back, many years back now, probably 25, a long while back, but my mother was very ill, and we were trying to figure out what was wrong with her in a small town in northern Ohio, taking to doctor appointments, waiting for test results, trying to figure it out. She got severely dehydrated and was having a fogginess, a lot of confusion, a lot of weakness. So we wound up referred to a doctor in Columbus and wound up coming down to my brother and I to admit her to a big hospital here. And they had a poor practice at that time of you weren't able to go right up to the door of the hospital for admissions and get a wheelchair or go in right from there or something. We were told we had to use a valet service from a nearby garage, which was a couple blocks away. So we follow protocol and we go in there and we wait and we wait. And we have a very sick mother with us, and we wait. And of course we start getting a little irritated, as someone might. We think, where's the driver? What is he doing? Is he taking a break or something? Well, a sick person is waiting here in the garage to get into the admissions. This isn't right, So my brother and I are, getting, and my mother's just kind of a little, she's so weak, she's really not, talking at all. Well, finally he comes up. I don't know, we've been waiting for, 40 minutes or something. And it's tense. We're irritated. We think it's been really dreadful service, and we have planned to have some words with admissions when we get over there. And he pulls up and he just swings open the door. No apologies or anything like that. So my mother We help her into the little bus, and she says to the young man in the seat, "Well, this is just a wonderful service. Thank you so much. What a wonderful young man you must be to be doing a service like this every day." Well, everybody just kind of went, our anger kind of went out, angry. And he's just kind of, "Thank you, ma'am. Thank you." He becomes gentle and solicitous and kind. And talk about a flip of a switch. So we get over there and he helps her in, and everything is kind and gentle from there. And of course, we don't make any complaints, and all of that just kind of dissipates. Isn't that kind of remarkable how that can happen? It really can be like a flip of a switch if someone manages to make this unexpected kind of more compassionate response. But it's hard to do. It's very hard for human beings to do. William Ury, that masterful negotiator who travels around to hotspots internationally where he tries to help negotiate solutions to warfare situations and all kinds of things, he talks about human beings as reaction machines. That's the typical human response, is to react. And if somebody gets angry, you get just as angry, if not angrier, and things build and increase that way. And yet in every kind of situation, on the very personal level, on the group level, on the national level, there are examples all the time of people managing to do it and flip a switch in an incredibly different way, transformative, creative way. There was a story that circulated real widely, and I know it's been shared in this church before, and I've shared it before, so you might have heard it. So I won't go into it in great detail, but it was about a dinner party in Washington, D.C., a group of people in a backyard, kind of courtyard area in the back of their house having a dinner party, friends. There's a couple and their teenage daughter, and there were two other couples at the party. And all of a sudden, a guy comes in the back gate. It's getting quite late at night. And he has a gun. Have you heard this story? It was in the Washington Post originally, and it circulated quite a bit. So this really happened. Yeah, the guy comes in, and he's got a gun, and he holds it to the head of the hostess, then to the daughter's head, and he's threatening and demanding money. And they didn't have any money to give him, or next to no money to give him, and he was very angry and very tense. And they start talking about any way to try to deter him. So they tried guilt. What would your mother think of you like this? And things that weren't working, and just made him angrier. And the guy who was the host of the party said it just was really bad at first, and there was just really this feeling that somebody's going to get hurt. And suddenly, the wife of this host couple said, out of the blue, I don't know how it would come to her, but she said, this was kind of a little celebration. Why don't you have a glass of wine with us? And offered him a glass of wine, and he took it. And he joined it, and they offered him some cheese that was out, and he had some of the cheese, and then he put his gun away, and he said, "This is just really good wine," and sat with them, and they talked a little bit, and cheese went more, and after a little while he said, "I think I got the wrong house." And it even went beyond that. And then before leaving, he said, "Can I get a hug?" It's hard to believe, isn't it? Talk about a flip of a switch. So he left then. They all went inside and just like, the breath of relief and amazement and what just happened and how did that happen. And in the morning they found this lovely wine glass just neatly sitting out behind their gate, at the back side of the house. He didn't break it or anything, he just left it there. It spread widely through newspapers because of what a remarkable example it is of how you can flip a switch with this unexpected kind of response. Nobody would have expected to get that. He didn't expect to get a response like that. An amazing, unbelievable transformation that comes from being able to practice this unexpected kind of kindness, compassion, willingness to maybe try something different, maybe not assume the worst, and maybe shift it in another direction. Maybe that young man really wanted to belong, wanted to experience being part of a group of friends like that, wanted to feel the comfort of that kind of a gathering and the joy of that kind of gathering. And who knows the effects of that, the ripple effects of that, and how far that might go in each of their lives. it happens on all kinds of levels, in all kinds of situations. There was another one I read about recently. It was, again, an NPR program, but it was about policemen in Denmark who took a whole different approach to dealing with potential terrorists. Around the world, there has been a lot of concern about Islamic radicalization, young men becoming radicalized and joining ISIS and this kind of thing. And the usual response of countries is, we're utterly intolerant of any kinds of terrorism, any kind of potential terrorism. And if men are going off to do that, they'll be arrested when they come back, and we'll deal with them harshly. Whole different thing went on in Denmark, a little town on the east coast of Denmark. The Danish police there took a whole different approach. They became aware there was a lot of increasing prejudice toward Muslims, and one cop became aware, he said, when he stopped somebody for a traffic speeding or something, pulled the car over, and the Muslim young man driving the car was so angry. And the police officer, asked him why he was so angry. Just a routine pullover. He said he'd been stopped 6 times that day. This kind of racial profiling, it happens. And this police officer became aware of that. There was another story of a young man, Jamal, who he'd been very happy in school. He'd grown up in this town, and everything going very well. He was about to finish high school when, in a debate in one of his classes, a young woman got up and just really tore into his religion, and how Islam was, just breeding violence, and how awful it was, and he got angry. His reaction, natural. He got angry, and he expressed his viewpoints, and he was very, angry and upset about his religion being attacked. But instead of that just being the end of it, which is what he thought it was, she called the police on him. Said it was, it was dangerous, and so he was interrogated and hauled into the. And then they searched his home, his computer, his family. For a week or so, he wasn't able to go to school. He missed his final exams. He had to retake classes after that, and they found nothing. There was nothing. That's the kind of thing really upsets people, and they begin to think, what's going on here? Isn't this my community, my culture? Well, these 2 police officers were put in charge of working on this, particularly when they started getting these calls from panicked Muslim parents that their son was gone. It happened once, and then it happened another time. This Jamal and that Muhammad, the traffic stop, and the guy that had trouble with class, they were among them that just disappeared. Their parents didn't know where they went. And of course, all the fears were they've gone to join ISIS, and terrified about their fates. Wound up being a total of 36 young men from this city gone. The police were put in charge of these 2 police officers that were really very, very smart. And they started by going to the local mosque and talking to the imam there about this something coming in out of it, because people were thinking maybe this mosque is breeding this kind of thing. Well, they were as deeply concerned as anybody else, and said, no, it's not happening here. We want to help these young men. They're upset. They're feeling alienated, and they told the police, what you should do is if you get the word out, they need to be responded to with love and caring. Radical idea for a couple of policemen to embrace. But they learned a lot from that conversation and from everything they were learning, and they decided to practice that. So they put the word out, if any of these young men, if you want to come back, just let us know, come in for coffee. Just like they had coffee with the imam at the mosques. You're always welcome back here, we will help you. Just come on in. And then they waited, and sure enough, there was just the first one came. It was, come on in, what do you need? They didn't assume they'd been terrorists. They called them Syrian volunteers. They went over there to volunteer, because they might have. They might have gone over to work in refugee camps or other things like that. So they didn't leap to the negative assumption. They assumed they could have just been over there helping out, so welcome. What do you need? Can we help you get back in school? Can we help you find housing? And one of the most important things they set up was a mentorship program. So like Jamal, when he called and said, can I come in? And they said, yes, come on in. Let's have some coffee and talk about how we can help you. They set him up with a mentor, a Turkish man married with a child who's also Muslim, and they met for coffee once a week for 2 years in mostly white coffee shops, as a practice of becoming more integrated into the whole culture again, and to feel like a Dane again, feel like you're a Danish citizen, this is your community. And they did that for a long time, and he came out feeling like, yeah, this is home again, this is my culture, this is my community. I think it's kind of remarkable that they were able to do that. I don't know, the police didn't know what compelled these young men to leave. All these cultural pressures, though, and prejudice certainly a part of it. The imams told them, these young men are dying to belong, dying to belong. That's a whole different perspective, and you don't hear a lot. Unexpected kind of love these young men met with when they came back. Not the response of, we know how to deal with terrorists, tit for tat, that Jesus, the eye for eye thing. They met with love and caring. How can we help? We don't know what your situation is. How can we work with you to be integrated back into our community? Of the 36 total that were missing, 6 died in Syria. 1's still missing, but 29 returned, reclaiming their lives as Danish citizens and young men building their lives in Denmark. I think that's a model I kind of hope people are looking at around the country, in other countries. Let's not make assumptions. Let's see if there's a way we can practice an unexpected kind of love to turn things around. It can flip a switch. Things can go so easily the other way when there's this meeting of eye for eye, and this hostility for hostility. And how high that can go, we see examples of that all the time too. But we have these wonderful examples of how people manage to flip the switch with a little reflection, a little willingness to not assume, but model something new. It's amazing. That's what Jesus taught more than 2,000 years ago, and we are still really working with that and challenged by it. It's a deeply challenging kind of love. This unexpected kind of love, this non-complementary behavior. But the power of it is immense. Immense, and we can all do it. It's a mysterious impersonal force that acts in us, that dwells in us, that we can call forth, and we get opportunities every day. Every day. I've been trying when stuck in traffic and feeling like people are driving really badly. Do you ever have that feeling when you're driving? It seems to be everybody else is driving pretty badly. I try to get a good look at one of them and think, they're doing the best they can. Now, sometimes that's a little frightening. That's the best they can. But somehow it helps me, too, remind myself, everybody is pretty much doing the best they can. There's all kinds of drivers out there, just as there's all kinds of people out there. And there's all kinds of circumstances and challenges we're all dealing with. If we can catch ourselves and not have that immediate reaction response that makes things escalate in the wrong direction, we can flip a switch in a powerful way. Here's an affirmation I like to use when I am needing to tap into my ability to do that. It's an old scripture from Isaiah. In quiet and in confidence is my strength. In quiet, I can tune in to God in me and be confident in that, and I can center myself, and that's a source of great strength. In quiet and in confidence is my strength. Would you like to join me in that? In quiet and in confidence is my strength. Let's take that into prayer for a moment. Feel the strength of that in our hearts and minds. Feel how blessed we are to have this God that dwells in us, that abides in us, and that we abide in, that is always with us to keep us steady and strong, that is always with us as a flow of great wisdom and an unconditional love that enables us to do great transformative things in the world and to not be slaves to our reactions, to our anger and our animosities. A great power dwells in us, and it is a power of love, and we are open to it and ready to receive it and ready to share it with others. We are grateful, and so it is. Amen.